It is Monday, October 24th, 2016. This is the Disclaimers with Dave and Ed Johnston. I hear that Dave will be a little late, but I'm going to pass the floor to Ed Johnston and have a good call.
Thank you. We're glad to have you all joining us tonight. We do this educational with everybody involved. That's the whole point. It's educational. We go by their information, the rules that they wrote, so that way we don't have issues. Because the main thing is people say, don't go by their structure. The thing is, go by their structure. Because when you go by their structure and using their rules, their administrative rules, their structure, you cannot be held liable. And there's a lot of stuff in there that is there to protect you. And that's the point that most people do not see that valid point. It is there to protect you. And so you have to watch this stuff and pay attention, read the information, and don't be afraid of yourself. Because most people are afraid of themselves for education. And, this is the point. It is about education. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to do the intensive research, and sometimes you don't have to do the intensive part. But when you do take other men and women's information, verify it. Just don't use their templates and run with it. Don't use their structure and go run with it. Read it, verify it, and I always suggest.
You there?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
We're introducing. Wait your turn. Anyhow, so the bottom line comes down to is with all the structure that we're doing with this, is the whole point is education. And if you don't know what you are doing, okay, that is the beauty of this. Somebody mute that other person right now. The bottom line comes out is knowing how to handle your circumstances in your life. Can we get that person, that man or woman muted? Because they're doing it in the background. Thank you. Anyhow, like I was saying, on templates, do the research. Make sure that what you are writing, especially your affidavits, you have to do it telling you the truth, and you only know the truth in your instance. So you have to write about your instance, your structure, put the honesty in the truth, and then you can use the administrative rules, then you can use their statutes and their structure in your complaint. And I don't like to use the word complaint because that's a whiner, but if you're going to use the word complaint, make sure you bracket it. Because bracket means that it's not there, but it's seen. All right, but you're writing crime victim, or injured party, corpus delicti. And this is the point. It's beauty when you start putting all this stuff together and you start realizing and learning it, because open your mind, let your mind go. I mean, I talk to a lot of people all the time, and they tell me how they can't comprehend this or comprehend that. And sometimes it takes them a few weeks, and all of a sudden light bulb goes off in their head, and you start seeing people going, hey, now I got it. I didn't see that point. I didn't know this point. And this is the point that the beauty is educating yourself as long as you're educating others around you when you're doing it. Because you have to figure out the lines that you're doing, the line numbers on your paper. You always want to put line numbers. You always want to do an autograph unless you are a legal citizen. Lawful bloodlines always autograph in red. And the main point is knowing if you're legal or lawful, because it's your responsibility to know this stuff. Because when you go into a court, even a maritime court, when you know if you're liable, all right, for an injured party or property damage, you can always negotiate those terms before you get to court. Because you're not supposed to even go to a court, even with an injured party or personal property damage, until you had the first attempt to make an amends. And everybody's going to say, oh, you need to go to court. This is the problem. You got to stop listening to other people. All right? You got to read the instruments that are out there, read what the administrative rules say, read what the law says. I'm not talking statute, codes, and administrative rules. I'm talking law based off of the Constitution. And that's like taxes. Taxes have been ruled unconstitutional. But it is legal for elected and public employees, and the reason why elected employees mandatory have to pay is because of the de facto dollar, that's how they make their income. So without that income, they cannot claim the de facto dollar. The other point is registered voters and church members have to pay. If you're registered yourself. You should.
I'll call you right back. George.
You're not responsible for yourself. So, and then the other point is immigration. That's a mandatory. And immigration has to register with the Foreign Registration Administration Act, 1938. And that's the reason why when it came to Castile license permits, this is where people don't realize where the history of that goes. That started in 1938 when they put together the Foreign Administration Registration Act. They didn't start issuing out Castile license permits to immigration people until the 1950s. Most people never even heard of Castile license permits, until the 60s. Some incidents they're trying to claim Castile license permits were done in Chicago and New York City in the 20s. Nobody needed a Castile license permit then or today, so long as there's no injured party, so long as there's no property damage. If you do an injured party or property damage, yes, you are liable. And this is the point that we need to get back in our country is called responsibility. And we know that a lot of people in my generation in their mid-50s, 60s, 70s, and 40s, 30s, even some today in the 20s, your babysitter's been your computer, your babysitter's been the TV, and so you don't really know anything but what you watched off of TV or your computer games. So you don't know what's going on until you start reading the Constitution, the administrative rules, realizing how they apply. And let me tell you, folks, the one thing is the 16th Amendment was never ratified. But the tax code was ratified for, like I said, elected and public employees, registered church members, voters, and immigration. That's where it goes. And so this is the one thing when you talk to people yourself, explain this to people. I don't have a problem with immigration so long as it's legally done. I do not believe in any word that means amnesty at all because there is no such thing as amnesty, period. They don't have a right to our food or water. That's like somebody moving right into your own home. So if somebody moves into your own home, are you going to allow some stranger walk into your home, take over your home, and just dictate to you in your own home? And that's what these immigration people are doing. The immigrants are actually doing this stuff in our country. We've got a lot of crime that's happening because of these people. And so we've got to pay attention to the truth here and skip going off on these tangents of brainwashing TV, propaganda, televising, advertising that's going on right now. We got this traitor Hillary trying to push gun control on people. Wake up on that. If you're not responsible, quit blaming somebody else because you're not responsible. And if you're not responsible, admit it to yourself, realize it, and move on. But deal with it. Don't sit there because you're not, but you want to make somebody else take your burden because you're not responsible. We're not supposed to pass our burdens over psychological issues or even our personal issues to one another. We're supposed to have respect for one another. And that's the one thing that we see that doesn't happen all the time. So we need to get back to that point. And so Dave had a couple topics that we wanted to hit. I'll be waiting for Dave because he had a couple points he wanted to really hit. I do have two people I want to bring in tonight's conversation. And anybody's got any questions, please do not be bashful. Speak up, and say, may I, or, let me, can I speak? But at least let the next man or woman finish his or her statement before you jump in. Because sometimes even Dave takes time where he takes a few seconds to think on his thought before he speaks. So, we want to be respectful to one another, and that's the whole point. If we're going to be adults, we have to really be adults. I don't believe in acting as an adult, because acting, we see what that's done. Look at our politicians. We just have to know it, and once we know it, we don't have the issues. So I don't know if Eugene is connected yet or not, but I wanted to bring Eugene in on a few things here, dealing with the First Amendment and what he's gone through, because this is the one point that we've got to look at all these issues, because if you don't start standing up for your rights and filing yourself out of the system, or if you're legal, making sure you know the separation of legal and lawful, filing your paperwork as legal, and you can always set up your paperwork for your next generation, 5 generations down the road. Set up your property so that way, you set up your assets to protect your bloodline. Because this is where most people do not comprehend. If your bloodline becomes extinct, you become extinct. And everybody goes, oh, the star burned out. Well, what do you think happened? And that's what's going on right now in our world. And the world is not our problem. The United States of 48 states is our problem. So until we start taking care of one of our neighbors and our lawful Americans, then our immigrants. But we have to take care of our home ground first before we can have open our door or say hi to people. We got to take care of our own ground first. And that's the point that we don't see this. That's the point that everybody goes, oh, it's the world. We have nothing to do with the world. And if you think about it, the world brought their living hell to these 48 states, and we're living it. Kids are arguing with their parents, making fits in the little grocery store. They're acting out because they see this stuff on TV. So they do it psychologically. Yes, it is mind control. Not a conspiracy theory. It does exist. Okay, and now, we know the agencies where it came from. But the point being is being smarter than that, not fall into those traps. Think about what's going on. Stand up for one's rights, because if you don't start standing up for your neighbors, your lawful bloodline Americans, and then you don't stand up for your immigrants, your legal immigrants, I don't care if they're illegal. I don't care if they have children here or not. Ship them out. It's their fault for having a child here. Yes, I do put blame where blame goes, because that's where blame goes. They know it. We've got enough. What do we got? 13 million illegals, or legals they call them, on their system. Our system under House Resolution 192 was developed only for lawful bloodline Americans, period. Nobody else is entitled to that system at all. It's not our responsibility, because they're supposed to be paying into the IRS that you and I are supposed to be getting a dividend check. And this is the point that really disturbs me, because, I talk to people all the time about acceptance for value and all this, and, go through my program. If you're real, you're not going to charge people for a program, and if you're real and you're doing it, tell us. I've talked to dozens of people that wanted to be, be on a show with me and Dave, and then I started grilling them. And then, we want to get charged this. No.